one is relevant, one is in business, right? So with respect to the first part of the question around on the alternate source of funds, when we are not able to get some kind of VC or private equity money, I would suggest a couple of options here. So one, there is a SIDB credit line for all the startups registered under with DIPP, so people can avail that. Second, as I mentioned in my last session, you should go for some level of invoice discounting, either directly with NBFCs or through some fintech firms. They are very happy to discount the large enterprise clients and will discount those. The third, I would say, is look at, you can explore sales and lease back of your assets. So let's say if you have already done fit outs in a couple of your centers, you can work with operating lease companies like Rent Alpha, and you can sale and lease back your assets, especially the IT assets, the Cisco, let's say HP, Cisco routers and all. So these firms would be very open to do that. Then, I mean, last two measures which I have in my mind is they may work for smaller operators. You can work with your landlords and look at doing security deposit adjustments with your future rentals. Last aspect, it's a bit tricky. You can work with a couple of angel investors within your network and try to make them some kind of strategic partner in your business so that they can fund couple of next months. So you have a solid partner around. So these were the few points around alternate source of funds. In terms of alternate revenue streams, I can talk about office. So we have always looked at ourselves as a marketplace of for work services, be it events, collaborations, networking, retail, and concierge services. Here, in the current environment, I would say IT should be the major stream for everyone. It helps you even in the core business. So start providing, VPN services, troubleshooting, work from home services to your current clients. So that is one. Second is in terms of business continuity planning, disaster management, which we discussed last time as well. We can do and become a mini version of, let's say, a SunGuard, right? Remote working solutions. Then out of box ideas could be, can your center act like data centers in some short to medium terms? Can you partner with a couple of data center operators and do that? So these are the kind of few points I had in my mind.
Great for your points, Sumit. I'd like to get views from Ankit as well.
Sumit has covered the majority of all the points, but
Ankit,
the one most, yeah, hi. Am I audible? Yeah. So I'm saying Sumit has covered majority of all the points that alternate source of funds, but one of the most prominent and traditional alternate source of fund is families and friends. And if your business is a business which is generating good EBITDA, which is generating good profits, and which is a fundamentally strong business, which we see co-working is for sure, flexi office services and managed offices also as well, then fundamentally you will be able to get the funds, not now, maybe as a problem, but next 3 months, 6 months, all various financial institutions and others will be helping all the industry norms. So in UK also, recently the government has helped a lot of startups by giving a huge amount of fund and at a zero level of interest rate. So I think the government will very soon, because there is a second relief package which Modi government is announcing very soon, around 2 lakh crore worth of package, wherein startups will also be one of the major focus. So the second point I would like to make is that alternate source of fund is a partnership model with the landlord. So we had a revenue sharing model also with the landlords, which in the traditional format of co-working was there. But I would like to suggest a partnership model wherein the landlord gives you money on the basis of the client which you contract with. So for example, if the client who's a wealthy client and is a stable client, has a good background of all the balance sheets and everything, then the landlord will definitely fund you on that client owing to on an escrow account by which you get the money on the revenue stream of what you earn from that as a client. So invariably, because we are as providing a layer of flexibility, then the landlord will be more happy to do this kind of a model. So that's what I think as well. And
Interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So these are the two ways what Sumit has covered. He has covered majorly, but these are the two other ways by which I think so. A lot of financial help from the banks will also come in. So today the things are right now not cleared by the government, but sooner or the later the banks will come up with startup funds. Banks will come up with the healthy balance sheets. Those who have created their business model in a very unique manner, and they have created in a fundamentally secured manner, they will be able to get those funds. Alternate revenue stream if the rent-free period is demanded by the client. So IT is what Sumit said is I will second it. IT is one of the major things by which if there is a work from home, for example, if Facebook has given $1,000 to each and every employee to upgrade their systems inside the home, so we can help a lot by the clients, because right now the situation is as an empathy. So for example, if your client has no choice but to leave you, then you can help him by telling him that we can upgrade some of your solutions so that he's still there with you. The stickiness of the clients has to be there with you, so that at this time of a situation, if you help your client, tomorrow he will definitely come back. So my point is various alternate solutions of IT given to him on a work from home platform will help a lot.
Interesting insight, Ankit, about especially on the partnership model with the landlord. Samir, do you have any view to add to this point or question?
Just a few additions. I think both Sumit and Ankit have practically covered the entire gamut of solutions. I think in my mind, before you decide to opt for financing, the first step which I would recommend is essentially try and ease out the cash flows, right? So essentially, if you're providing rent-free to customers, ensure that it's spread out as much as possible. Therefore, the hit on a per month basis is far lower, right? Second, work with your landlord to ensure that you are able to ease the rental burden, right? The rental and CAM burden is essentially the biggest cost item as far as workspaces is concerned, right? Similarly, you can actually work with your telecom provider to manage the bandwidth that you have done in by playing around with the lock-in to reduce costs, right? So I think the first aspect to look at is ensure that your cash flows are evenly streamed out so that the hit on a monthly basis is not that high, and therefore the amount that you're looking for in terms of financing is not that high. That's part number one, right? Sumit has, in any case, covered what are the different options you have in terms of financing. As far as alternate revenue streams is concerned, I think one of the first things which is going to happen is the entire subscription model itself might change, right? Corporates or clients may not be amenable to saying, I'm willing to pay for a monthly subscription. They may just end up opting for a pay-per-use model, right? And it's useful to think around products which work for this pay-per-use kind of a need, right? Second is, as you try to retain your base of small customers, what small customers are likely to opt for is maybe, some of them might opt for a work from home model, but essentially for some of their important meetings, they're still likely to come to you to have the meetings in the meeting room. So a meeting room package helps, right? From a BCP perspective, a flexi pass kind of an option, which, provides you access to any workspace, provided X hours is used, again becomes an option. Additionally, if you think about it, there is also, an opportunity in terms of kind of video shoots, etc., or events, mini events being conducted in the premises, and those are decent revenue streams, right? So video shoots of films, etc., can, actually significantly improve your revenue base.
Interesting. Thanks, Samir. I think the second question is actually, again, from an operator perspective, how do flex operators plan on providing rent-free periods relief to their clients if landlords are not willing to support them? And another part to this is how are they planning to respond to potential negotiations that might arise due to cost savings across organizations? Will they in turn demand such flexibility from their respective landlords as well? So here it's like a worst case scenario where clients have come back to you as operators to ask for rent-free. However, your landlords are now being proactive to support you guys. So Arvind, any view on this?
Yeah, so first of all, Karan, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you to you and the QDesk team, especially Paras. It's a privilege to be here. I would say these are, extremely tough times, unseen in anybody's, professional journey so far. And we do not even know the extent of this. Plus, also, we don't know how long this is going to last. So this is definitely a natural, question which is going to come up. Now, uh, in the tough times, businesses have to support each other, and we are not going to be any different. So we would like to support our clients, and we would also expect the landlords to support us in some manner or the other. Having said that, there are a few ways in which this can be looked at. um, One thing could be that this benefit can be passed on over a period of time and not at one go, so that the scale and this cycle can be increased as much as possible, so that every business can weather this storm. So what I mean is that if we were to pass on the discount over a period of 2 years rather than straight away these 2 months, this will not pinch anybody right away, and business will be able to
Yeah.
get through this. uh, right now, people are wanting to get through this phase. Nobody has the time to. Right now, the most important thing is safety of everybody. Once we are sort of out of this, only then there will be a legal viewpoint of whether this can be termed as a force majeure or no, and what kind of benefits or packages the governments are going to announce. I know some regions globally have already announced these as rent-free periods. Areas like Gulf, they have declared this to be rent-free
Right.
for everybody. uh, I see that happening
Okay.
some of the other economies as well, but India is very different. India is a democracy. So, of course, there will have to be a legal viewpoint onto this. Now, the generic outcome is that intent of every particular business will be to help and see how we can support each other is what I feel.
All right. So great. I mean, so you're in sync with what Samir also suggested, is spreading away the loss or the rent-free
Yeah.
period rather than having it one shot together. Great. Mishu, any views from you?
So I think it's pretty much resonating what Arvind mentioned as well. So what
Right.
we are doing in our cases is one, of course, trying to spread it over a period instead of saying that okay, this is completely rent free. If at all we have to reach that situation. Plus, as we last time also spoke about this, that in most cases it's going to be case to case. So I doubt if it's going to be a blanket kind of an approval which any co-working space can afford to offer to their clients right now. Coming to the second part of it, again, it's a negotiation that we'll have to get into with the landlord. So it's unfortunately, as Arvind rightly put, it's not really coming from the government yet, when we can say that okay, the force majeure has to be applied and honored in every lease, and we may not even see that happening in India for now. So we'll have to probably use our negotiation skills to make sure that, see, the landlords and us, so we are kind of the link between the, let's say, a customer who's the actual tenant for that space, and the landlord is of course the owner of the space. So we have to help that landlord understand the severity of the situation, and accordingly help them to understand and negotiate to our benefit.
Great. Akshita, you have any views? Oh, sorry, Arvind.
So Karan, I missed out on the second part. There is definitely, clients may have changes in their business plans, and they may want to, relook at how the utilization of their current space is happening after the lockdown is over. And I think, as service providers, one will have to be flexible, obviously keeping both businesses in mind. There will have to be a strategy where flexibility can be given to a client. At the same time, there will be opportunities which will arise for the service provider to get some new clients as well, basis this transition. So I don't see a huge impact out of the fact that companies may want to downsize, because some companies who were actually wanting to take a traditional conventional space may actually get skewed towards taking a flex space. So it will fill back. The only thing is, it's about elongating this entire cycle, so the impact on one business is not extreme.
True.
And I think the sense is that in next 3 to 6 months time, things will be better than what they were 2 months back, I would say.
Got it. Akshat, I was coming to you to get your views as well.
Yeah, Karan. So Arvind and Mishu, they have already cleared most of the points, but I believe creating a right combination of deals, like adjusting a portion of their rent from security deposit and adjusting a rent-free period over a staggered period of time, like next 4 to 6 months, can create win-win situation for us also and for the clients also. Also, the second part of this, I believe the landlords, they need to understand the gravity of the situation here,
right,
and must take some portion of the hit in the rentals. All can survive through this situation if everyone is taking a little hit in their revenues and expenses. The idea here is to be, to show inclusion and hold everyone together in these tough times. The situation is not because of the efficiency or non-performance of any operator or anyone, but simply because of the external factors that are beyond anyone's control. So there's nothing, I think, wrong in asking rebates from the landlords.
Yeah.
Can I just add to this point?
Yeah, Mishu.
So just to add on to Akshita's point, I think as operators, we'll have to also strongly go back to the landlords. It's not going to be an easy negotiation, but the situation is not comfortable for them as well. And if at all the operator runs out of the business, or let's say that particular property has to be let go, we have to make them understand that it's not going to be easy for them to find a new tenant as well, whether it's a co-working operator or a traditional office operator. Either ways, it's going to result in a lag period before they find a new tenant, and which may run into a couple of years as well. So I think this is a good opportunity to go back to them strongly and make them understand the gravity of the situation and accordingly negotiate.
Yep.
So it's all, everyone is together to support this period.
There is an association also formed recently by IWA, Indian Workspace Association, where all the co-working platform people are on that association, and we are going to the finance minister and various departments of electricity and other government authorities to waive off whatever best possible so that we can give a comfort to the client. That is already formed.
That's a great initiative.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'll move to the next question. In your opinion, are developers and landlords willing to renegotiate rent, flexibility, and other aspects considering the crisis? Paras?
Okay.
Hi, Karan. First of all, thanks to you and all the panelists who have agreed to, rejoin and do this webinar, because we got really overwhelming response last time, and a lot of questions came from the transaction and provider community. So I'm happy that we are back and answering these questions. Great work by Karam and team to curate them into top 20 questions. So coming to the question, as a platform, we've always focused on the occupancy development, that is the demand side. We've not been in the center of the supply side or the negotiations between the provider, operator, or the landlord. But to prepare for this question, we internally had a chat with a lot of providers. What are the strategies they are adopting to get that from the landlord? And I would second what Mishu said in the previous question. Is like coming together and making them understand. There are two aspects. One is the legal aspect, which Arvind covered, that force majeure is more of an opinion which has been floating around rather than a legal act. Second is the humanitarian ground. I'm sure landlords do understand this is not going to be a simple, smooth, hockey stick kind of commercial real estate growth just after a month. There is going to be a recovery period from 6 to 12 months. And when there is a recovery period, the transaction gets low because business and sectors have to revive. So I think they will agree on relaxations to the operator, which further can be passed on to the operators.
Got it. Sumit, you have a larger footprint across India. So, I mean, you interact with a lot of landlords. What is your personal, do you think into this in case it is going through pain? And like Akshita mentioned, great point. It's this is not non-performance of the operator. It's the overall situation.
So, Karan, here the way we have approached this collaboration is the name of the game. We have almost about 63 different space owners currently where our centers are live, and another 13 centers which were under various stages of fit outs. So, in total, we are exploring with about 75 different space owners, different courses for different horses, as they say. But it's heartening to see that landlords are collaborating. It's heartening to see.
Oh, very nice.
I would say, and even our approach with the space owners we are not, we are also, we understand, I mean, the rental which we pay is 100% of their revenue, right? So we're being very transparent with them that these are the kind of, some level of waivers which we intend to give to our customers. This is the kind of impact which is going to have on the whole thing. During the lockdown period, we are requesting for a kind of close to the full waiver from them. But we are giving them an option. Can we look at some level of revenue share or profit share opportunities? In any case, 40% of our portfolio is in that mode. So that is one. Second, with respect to landlords, a couple of them have gone, almost I would say 5 of them have given us more ideas around things. They started working with us on our client base and said that these are the customers who are in essential services kind of categories. Let's work and get the centers open for them. If we can facilitate some kind of approvals for these guys, and while we were working with clients, so it was a joint effort between our teams and the client team. What was heartening to see was that the landlord, they even pulled up resources from their side and got approvals for a couple of enterprise customers to get the ball rolling and come back to the centers. So this is a kind of a collaborative kind of approach.
Yeah.
I see the collaboration will continue for a period of next 3 to 4 months. It's not that we would request we are requesting collaboration for a period of about 3 to 4 months with the landlords, but our play to them is very, very straightforward. And we will not, we're not looking to earn out of it. We're not looking to make money out of it, but help us reduce our losses. So we create some kind of, waterfall structures in these profit share or revenue share models. So after paying off the operating expenses, the first portion goes to the landlord. And if their whole rental is hold up, then only we start making money. So this is the kind of, approach we have taken with the landlords. It's working well. Few of the landlords have still taken a hard stance. With them, it would be a kind of a longer journey. It's not an easy kind of solution for anyone. And in all honesty, if someone is taking a hard stance, I think it's not wrong from their part as well.
So what I hear is just be transparent with your landlords. At the end of the day, they are partners, and whatever revenue you are contributing to them, it's their full 100% thing. So be as transparent and be share your pain with them.
Yeah.
Great. Samir, any points?
Yeah. So just adding to what the others have said, I think one of the first aspects is the reactions you are getting from the landlords, right? Especially the ones who are holding back right now, is also because they are also faced with this unprecedented situation where they are also getting notices from all their tenants, right? So that's the reality, right? It's uncertainty all over. As much as there's uncertainty for us, there's uncertainty for the landlord, right? Firstly, I think the right time to enter into a negotiation is just wait for us to get a full clarity on what the lockdown period is going to be, right? Just wait that out so that you get clarity around that. And after that, during this period, you should just keep the landlord updated on what's the status of the business, right? What are you seeing customers doing? What are they asking for? All of that, right? Once the lockdown period is over, is when you go and work with the landlord. All that we have to also remember is the landlords also often have taken loans against receivables from us, right? So, we're both in the same boat. In fact, they've got relief early enough through the moratorium scheme, which RBI has announced. It's a good idea to both work together and figure out what works, right? 2 approaches can be taken, right? One of the approaches is essentially saying, as a landlord, let us work together to ensure that your 9-year cash flows, which is the traditional length of a lease, is not impacted, right? And therefore, if you're giving me relief right now for the next 12 to 18 months or the next 2 years, I will try and make up for it in the remaining period. And that could be, by either utilizing the security deposit right now and then making up for it later, or increasing the lock-in period with you, or playing around with the escalation numbers. I think there's a lot of play which is possible. However, the first aspect that you need to do is sit down with the landlord and have a transparent conversation. I think that's most important. There will be landlords who will take hard stances, but remember, at the end of the day, they are also shrewd businessmen, right? Any lease deed that you sign, the landlord actually has done a cash flow analysis over 9 years. He knows exactly how the market is going to pan out, and accordingly has decided on the rental numbers, CAM numbers, escalations, etc. And he also understands, especially with small co-working players, that if the player goes bust, very limited recourse, right? What does he do? He needs to take away the space, figure out another tenant, and there's a huge loss. So his preference would be to work with you.
Great. A great point, Samir. I think I fully second what you recommended is make it a win-win situation. So if you're taking a relief now over the short-term period, make up the loss to the landlord over the tenure of the lease.
Yeah, and I have one more point. Sorry.
Just next one. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, just one more addition. I think at points in time where we as a co-working player believe that you don't have the ability or the willpower or the determination to negotiate with the landlord. In fact, you can use the help of broker, right? Because the landlord really listens to the broker, right? And the broker drilling some sense with the landlord around what's happening in the market will actually help the deal happen.
Okay. So moving to the next question. So some operators wanted to know is how do we retain clients in the centers? Is there a way to provide some other discounts apart from, say, rent-free if somebody's coming and asking? But the key theme being here is retention of your existing clients in the centers. So Arvind, any view on that?
Yeah, so I'll answer this in two parts, Karan. So primarily, if I talk about corporate edge in specific, our model is, very different. We don't have flexible kind of agreements with customers. Our agreements are mostly long-term, and most of our customers, are there to stay for 2 to 3 to 4 year time kinds. These are fixed term contracts, and they're binding for both parties. So corporate edge doesn't really have a risk attached as such, where we have a risk of losing clients. Now, I also know in the industry there are a lot of flexible kind of contracts as well, which are there. And I will go back to my previous point that the way we are wanting to structure some of the deals with our landlords, like some of them mentioned, Sameer mentioned, Mishu mentioned, I think it will have to be in the similar manner with the customers also. So the payouts could be relaxed for a period of this temporary phase where the business is getting impacted. So, one can weather the situation, and then when the business is as usual, it can go back to the regular payout. The other thing could be, the terms could be, the tenure could be extended, and there could be some relaxation given at the end of the term, because right now, cash flows will be a problem for every business. So instead of the immediate, I would say, discount, it could be done over a period of time or right at the end. So it helps both the businesses. So these are some of the things that I think can be looked at,
Okay. Akshata, any other different point of view? Any other kind of discounting or retention of clients?
So, Karan, Arvind made a lot of sense here. So, but literally, no rent during this period is idle, but we all are not billionaires as of now. So we can't really afford it. But at ABL Workspaces, we're trying to cut cost at every corner and trying to pass on all the benefits that we get from anywhere, whether it's a government or the landlord, or by cutting the cost, we're trying to pass it on to the clients here.
Clients.
So we won't be making any profit during this period. But we haven't really worked on the best possible discount as of now. But we are still working on all the possibilities, whatever comes our way.
Got it. Ankit, can I have your view as well?
Yeah, so I have many views on this. So because the industry is divided into two segments, one is a co-working segment, one is a managed office segment, and I represent managed office because our clients are basically the top Fortune 500 companies, and we have an enterprise model where we have a very long lock-in with the clients. And our contracts have been very, very stringent in the terms of the language of the nomenclature of legality.
Got it.
But I would like to recommend that people who are under lease, soft flexible leases or soft contracts of service contract, they can be, first important point is that they should be a part of the IWA immediately, which is the Indian Workspace Association. So this association is helping all those people who are in pain right now, who cannot, because the legal agreements are not so properly vetted by various legal agencies. So the force majeure clause itself is very right now ambiguous, because there was a chamber of association yesterday, and there was a legal judge who came and represented 350 lawyers. And today also, if you see force majeure, which is a French word, in the Indian Contract Act, it's very, very different at what force majeure means. So explicitly what exactly your force majeure clause in your contract is, that is very important. So if you are part of the association, then you are representing towards the landlord, various government authorities. Like this particular April, March electricity bill from the Delhi governments have been unprecedentedly high because of the fixed charges they have implied on people. Now the association is taking that towards the Delhi government and saying that this is not done, and this cannot be put on our businesses because we are startups. On the lease lines, you can get a lot of relief from various operators if you are again a part of that association, because again this will help you a lot. So whatever, because it's a transparent system which you should adopt with your customers. If you are getting some benefit from the landlord, just transparently pass on to the customer, because customer will not go anywhere, because he has to take that office with you, not today, not tomorrow, but maybe day after tomorrow. So he will come back with you. It's more important that what kind of behavior you adopt with your customer and what kind of a behavior you adopt with your landlord. Today is the time to show. You cannot play today like a 2020 match. You have to play like a Rahul Dravid. So it's like a test match. You have to be very, very cautious about how the bowler is doing a ball and how you have to play it. So my recommendation is that be a transparent model. Whatever it is coming from the landlord, just pass it on to your customer. And for example, if you are making a 20% profit from your customer, and there is if you divide that over a period of 5 months, it becomes 0. So similarly, if you divide this by 5 months, if you divide by 10 months, it becomes 10%. So it totally depends upon how do you calculate. And if the longevity of that contract elongates by those period of time, you are completely safe. It is only that you are not earning those 5-6 months, but you have to pass, because fundamentally this industry is very, very strong. When the end consumer is getting a benefit, when the landlord is getting a benefit, and when the customer is, when the space provider like us is getting a benefit, that means fundamentally this industry is not wrong. So ultimately today we have to pass the time with patience and play like Rahul Dravid, what I say, and then the situation will be perfectly normal. Just pass on and stay with your customer, stay with your landlord. You cannot file a legal case with your landlord today, because ultimately the law is ambiguous. So people are studying about force majeure. There is no precedence ever what has happened before to justify that whether this force majeure clause will be activated or not, but you will spoil your relationship with your landlord. So today is a position and a point that you should just discuss things on an empathy ground and normalize this situation in the coming months and then act upon it.
Got it. Thanks, Ankit, for the elaborate view. Panelists, I'm just conscious that we have now 25 minutes more to go, and we still have a few questions to go. So we can have more concrete and bullet point answers, I think, so that we can cover everybody, and so the audience gets to hear responses to all the 20 questions. Moving to the next one quickly. Effect of the lockdown will be intense for a few, maybe more intense for a few providers. So in that case, will consolidation of co-working sector be the new trend? I can have Mishu's view.
So on this, I'll have actually two views, and I think wouldn't have a firm view on this currently, actually. It will all depend on how things pan out eventually, post the lockdown opens, and how we see the next, let's say, 6 to 24 months in the industry. And my first view is, of course, there'll be a consolidation in terms of the players which were just relying on, let's say, discounting and valuations and offering crazy prices in the market as well. So, I know of, I don't want to name anybody, but yes, there were a lot of companies which came into the co-working industry over the last, let's say, 2 years, just building the business basis, the valuations and the revenues that they get, irrespective of their EBITDA. Like Ankit clearly mentioned, whether it's an investor now or it's a business owner, everybody will start focusing on their EBITDAs as well. And that will eventually result in only the ones which are sustainable businesses be able to continue the operations. And that's where some bit of consolidation will definitely happen, wherein people who are probably running out of business or looking for a faster exit at, let's say, negotiated values may be consolidated with larger players. That's one part of it. The other view that I have is, which we also spoke in the last discussion, we see an increasing demand coming up for more and more centers, and probably smaller centers as well, which will probably cut down the distance between, let's say, a customer's home and the co-working space. And I think that's where I see, probably, just to cite an example, something like, let's say, a Ministry of New, which is a very boutique kind of a co-working space. So those kind of things coming up in nooks and corners as well, and which would be an opportunity to make money, not just to run operations for, let's say, smaller players as well.
Got it. Paras, can I have your views on this?
Yeah, hi, Karan. I'm going to be short and crisp. I don't see consolidation happening because I think the whole it's a turning point in lives of co-working operators. There's going to be a lot of learning and evolution, and the biggest learning, like everyone pointed out, is focus on EBITDA, focus on the right seat pricing, and focus on the right rollout. It's not important to have all the centers on Golf Course Road. You need to find strategic spots, have a better coverage. So a lot of innovative strategy. Consolidation normally happens when X has something proprietary which Y wants. In this game, it's not that I will only sit at X provider because they have a proprietary technology or they have proprietary design. Everyone is making beautiful offices. Homegrown operators has actually done beautiful job. So I think the demand is going to be so huge after 6 months. All are going to be busy. Consolidation, I don't see a phenomena. We've been talking about it for 2-3 years, but I don't see consolidation.
Sure. Sumit, your point of view?
I think over the next 1 or 2 quarters, you may see certain mid-sized players coming up with respect to merge or consolidate with the kind of larger players. There would be 2 or 3 such opportunities. I foresee that. Number 2, I also foresee a trend where a couple of smaller players may find it difficult and they may end up folding. In that case, probably some kind of innovative solutions a lot of larger players can have is helping them out, maybe with respect to operating support for next 6-9 months, and then gradually taking over the centers. In a lot of cases, I mean, at least one of the trend we are seeing is a couple of landlords approaching us. Their tenants were co-working centers. Now they're not being able to pay up the rentals. They have very less kind of security deposit. So these landlords are approaching us. Would you want to, now come and run our center? So these kind of things will come around. As a company, from our perspective, the intent is any kind of small time operators or smaller players which are coming up. We are helping them out the way we can be by giving out various kind of structures which they can work with their landlords or with their clients. But over the next, I would stick my neck out and say over the next 6 months, you may see 1 or 2 mid to large players merging with someone.
Got it. That's a bold statement, Sumit. Interesting. So going to the next question, social distancing being the new norm, will organizations now actually look at cost savings by occupying space in flex or still stick to traditional office space for disaster management? Arvind, if I can have your view.
Yeah, so Karan, organizations will be prudent with their costs. I wouldn't say cost saving, but this forced work from home has actually allowed organizations to think whether this can be a viable option for 15 to 20% of their workforce permanently. I was speaking to somebody in a Fortune 10 company. They have about 20,000 people working in India in various locations, and he was telling me that actually 15 to 20% of our workforce, we may continue the work from home as a permanent thing. They only come to the office when there are meetings and business decisions that have to be taken. But otherwise, if they can be productive enough to working from home, we might as well do that, because this also allows a good work-life balance. They don't have to spend time traveling, especially in a city like Bangalore. So I would think that organizations will be prudent. Having said that, right now, if we look at the way the business is happening, actually business is happening mostly through technology and through meetings. So there will be a lot of change in how the flex spaces will be designed. So I see a lot of meeting rooms which will be technology enabled, that will be there. I see that there will be a lot of engagement which will happen through online meeting platforms like what we are doing right now. There may be a complete no to a face-to-face meeting. Some of the organizations have already done that. Having said that, in the long run, I don't see this like permanently impacting how companies like to spend on their offices and their space infrastructure. No, it can be temporarily there, but people will only be prudent and not really cost saving, because if you need to provide certain kind of an environment for people to be productive, I don't think companies will compromise on that.
Interesting. Paras, can I have quick comment from you?
I totally concur what Arvind is saying, that there would be change in narrative. I mean, there has been some experimentation on work from home, but at large, this cannot be a way of life. So certain teams or some rosters can allow that, but overall, I think last time we covered that it is going to be corporate office becoming a strategic corporate office, where data sensitive and leadership and that kind of team would be there, and there would be lot of experimentation with flex spaces and work from home going forward for the next 6 months. And out of that experimentation, I feel that the biggest benefit would be like working near home in a flex.
Great. Moving to next one quickly is with respect to social distancing, what should co-working players, operators do for safety measures, density of workspaces, and being more cluttered and less hygienic? So these are two different ends of the spectrum. So social distancing, and then we have on one side, and the other side we have co-working centers which are very dense, cluttered. So any viewpoints, Akshita, on that?
Yeah, Karan. So I'll split it into three parts. So if you talk about safety measures, so like Paras mentioned in the last webinar, that sanitation and hygiene will become the industry standard. It will be the main decision-making pointer from now on. So any co-working sector player, lacking in services in terms of hygiene and sanitization would be losing onto the competition. So, and when we talk about density of workspace, the game of shared spaces revolves around the basis of principle of maintaining high density. And if you try to reduce the density, the economics become unviable. No one would be, willing to spend double the cost per seat. We have to work on the models where we can provide all sorts of safety and keeping safety measures and keeping the density, the level of density similar, in order to make the economics viable here. Also, the staff traveling from different modes of transport from different areas of the city, meeting different people, are using the common areas. So this do not mitigate the risk of the virus just by reducing the density.
Good insights.
And
Right,
yeah, the perspective for co-working space being more cluttered and less hygienic, in my opinion, to be very honest, all the spaces should be viewed as the same. On an average, every desk that we use has 1 meter distance, and a co-working space are not like cinema seats, adjoining seats. We don't have adjoining seats, so there's a distance of 1 meter already. So I think this will not apply to co-working space.
Samir, can I have your view?
Yeah, I agree with what Akshita has said. I think I think what co-working players should do right now is work with their clients and establish basic norms of how we would work in the post-lockdown scenario, right? Which essentially means that you need to use the infrared thermometers to test if anybody has fever before entering the workspace. Second, I think you'll need to start using the recommended disinfectants to clean up the office, focus on high-use surfaces, and do that. Third, ensure that clients are reporting their travel, both professional as well as personal. All the members are reporting that. And there is a protocol which is agreed with clients on how to deal with scenarios where somebody has traveled. I think density, like Akshita also mentioned, I think the whole idea of co-working was born out of the fact that in the metros, if you look at it, real estate is damn expensive. Unless the underlying cost of real estate comes down, how will the density reduce? And that holds true for co-working players. That holds true for traditional office spaces. What we're talking about is a situation where clients will have lesser money to pay, and you're talking about density going down. I don't see that happening. I think more rostering, etc., and all of those solutions is what corporates will opt for.
Okay, my request to panelists is if you can keep brief. I see we have only about 13 minutes to go and still a few questions. In the interest of time, I'll take only now one or maybe two views for questions. Coming to the next one is, given this situation, will organizations now consider BCP and disaster management more seriously? And if so, what will be the role of co-working operators and flex providers in this case? So if I take Ankit's view.
So how does India perform? That's more important in the complete world, because the world completely, each and every part of the world has been affected. So if India performs well, a lot of BCP will come back to India. And I think a lot of consolidation will also happen rather than because there will be a lot of cost saving. If I talk about the enterprise clients, when they are scattered into various other cities, they will consolidate to one or two or maybe three cities, where they will have a consolidation plan to save a lot of cost, and they will have everything under one head. So that if there is a same kind of a disaster, what has happened right now happens again, then they have a control of work from home and control of all their members at one particular location. So this is what I feel in short.
Okay, Mishu, I'll come to you. In the previous question, Akshita had mentioned that she is being smart about cutting costs, but not compromising the service provided. Any ideas you have on cost cutting factors which operators could do without compromising, obviously, the service?
See, in fact, on that, yeah. So, can you hear me? Sorry, yes, I was disconnected in between as well. Yes, one of the issues of working from home. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, to add to that, in fact, I kept on thinking about that question when you initially asked as well. I doubt there's a way to cut down cost at this moment unless we can renegotiate rentals with the owners. That's the only cost cutting that we can do as a service provider. In fact, as far as the operations costs are concerned, I see that going up and not coming down because of all the safety and the hygiene measures that we'll have to take. The cleanings will be required more often. I think Sumit and Samir earlier mentioned that the number of times that the cleaning has to be scheduled now in the centers has gone up already. The material that we will use will probably be of higher quality vis-a-vis what it was used. Sanitization will be required much more often. So I don't see a measure which can be taken and which can help reduce. I think what we need to do is make sure that the services are still at par, the space is safer and more hygienic, and then eventually the customers will start seeing value. I think it's a tide that we'll have to all ride over before we start attracting more revenues out of what the offering is instead of saying that, okay, we'll cut the cost and not pass on the benefits to the customer.
Samir, I saw you raising your hand. You want to add anything?
Yeah, I have two potential options to look at lowering costs, right? One of the highest costs is cost of the sales force. Worthwhile actually exploring making that a variable model where you have a higher incentive payout, but it's completely variable for your sales force, right? At least the small co-working players should be in a position to see that happening. I think the second is electricity is a significant cost. It's 40% of the total OPEX for most, 35 to 40% for most workspaces. And that's a area where most players haven't focused on. Just focusing on ensuring that you're using it in the right way will actually reduce the OPEX cost burden. Obviously, rentals is the biggest one.
Got it. Akshita, can I come to you and take a quick view on your opinion on whether globalization will actually curtail due to lack of mobility and social distancing?
See, Karan, with the speed of technology, communication, and transportation that mankind has developed today, it is impossible to curtail globalization. And any country like North Korea trying to do so will just be stopping from this beautiful upgradation. The world has become highly independent of each other, and eliminating same cannot be a long-term growth solution. You need the best products and technology made anywhere and to be available anywhere in the world. Of course, there's a short to mid-term crisis and there's a shutdown which is temporary, but otherwise the world is becoming more and more global and towards one economy.
Thank you. Sumit, coming to you, can I have a view on whether crisis which is happening will affect the real estate strategies of MNCs, especially coming from countries like US, UK, and China for the operations in India?
Yeah. So, Karan, on a macroeconomic scenario, I think between medium to long term, the MNC business strategies will become both country specific and talent specific. So India as a country will see more outsourced work coming around in the medium to long term. Very specific to the real estate footprint, I think MNCs will optimize their RE cost in India. You will see they will switch back to a lot of hub and spoke models at a country and a various city level. And I think their dependence on flex players will increase in medium to long term, big time.
Great. Mishu, coming to you, do you think this crisis can be an opportunity for flex operators to expand in tier 2, tier 3 cities? Quickly.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So that's one of the untapped market for most of us. And, the especially the larger companies today, when they go to hire people in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, especially let's say a national level player can actually offer them a workspace solution across, let's say, tier 1 city, as well as supported by options in a tier 2. May not be as fancy and may not be as large as, let's say, options in a tier 1 city. But I think the opportunity definitely lies to explore the tier 2 cities fast. Tier 3, I'm still not very sure at this moment, but tier 2, definitely there's an opportunity to be tapped.
Got it. Coming to Ankit, your view on how will flex providers who are large, having smaller footprints, and the smaller players who have multiple locations be impacted? And number two, how will be the expansion strategies? Whether there be a change now or not? A quick response.
So the players who are working on a very, very low EBITDA margin have just taken clients on the basis of just taking up a revenue, whether it is a large player or whether it is a player which is a smaller area at a different locations will suffer. So it doesn't matter if you are on an outside periphery or you are in the central location, you are a big or a small, the ethics and the fundamentals of the business have to be right. So my answer to that question is this. What was your second question?
Any change in strategy for expansions?
Yeah. So, for example, if you see in Gurgaon, the expansion strategy should be on the periphery of the extensions where the possible rentals are very low and you have a better grade A asset. So, for example, in Gurgaon, you see Golf Course Extension Road. That is the only place where you have a low rental but a grade A opportunities available. Because of the clients will lower down on a lot of expenses. They have to have the office, but they will want the space which is not hitting too much on their profit margins.
All right. Coming to the next question to Samir, do you think work from home? I mean, it was heartening to hear Arvind say that he is one of the top Fortune 10 corporate has said that work from home is a success for them and they might continue as a permanent solution. In your view, is this true for larger organizations which are going through work from home implementation? And if yes, how will this impact co-working players?
I think, I second what Arvind said. Work from home might be possible, but for a specific small part of the workforce, right? It's not going to be a solution which will be all across. Look, everybody is itching to get back to their workspace, right? More days that we are spending in lockdown, it's getting to us because we are social animals. So work from home is not a permanent solution.
Correct. Arvind, coming to you, do you think force majeure clause legally can be implemented with respect to COVID-19? I think we heard earlier saying it is not really there, like Ankit mentioned. And how is the impact of this clause? And number two, where clients are pushing smaller co-working operators for not paying rent for next 3 to 6 months, how should they react?
So first one, I mentioned earlier as well, Karan. Right now, I think everybody is focused on safety and well-being of their people. So even I don't think any competent legal authority has had the time to view the current situation in any manner. So it will be difficult to say whether this is a force majeure or no. We'll have to wait once this phase is over. Only then, the legal recourse will be taken by, I'm sure, a lot of organizations. So very
Ankit,
difficult to say
sorry.
right now. Yeah.
Ankit, you have something.
So there is an act which is under section 56, Doctrine of Frustration Contract Act. So when there is a force majeure, which is again a French word, if you don't have, because this is very important for all the people who are listening, if you don't have a force majeure act under your lease, then there is a law which is over and above the contract, which is Doctrine of Frustration Contract Act, section 56. According to that, your lease and all the obligation towards the lease is void. So if there is a problem, there is a big issue, you can refer to your lawyers upon this law. This will supersede above all the laws. Because under this law, it's a clear statement that if you are unable to perform your duties, you are unable to put all the obligations in the place, then the contract is completely terminated and void.
Okay. Ankit, staying with you, what is your view or suggestion to smaller co-working players to fight against the larger ones if they come into the discounting game over the next few months?
Okay, so again, I will say that we all should together be in this race. We should not cut each other. And very, very important role of IPC I see coming here, because IPC will play the most important role because it is a double sword game which IPC always has, because you are also representing the landlords and you are also representing the clients. You are also have a revenue stream from co-working. You also have a revenue stream from the landlord. So if the small co-working players and large co-working players get together in tandem and have a very restrictive kind of an approach, wherein if the client wants to take an advantage, they should not. If he's in a pain, then we should all support. But if there is an advantage towards a landlord or a client, then we should all come together and protect our association rather than to cut other co-working players.
Akshata, your view? Quick view?
Yeah, so Karan, what Ankit said, we have to do a lot of hand holding and negotiations here. I think negotiation is the key, and negotiation with everybody, the supplier, employees, landlord, clients, etc., everybody. So next few months will be the game of negotiation. The best negotiator will be providing the win-win deals for everyone to sail through. So hand holding and negotiation is the thing here.
So for basically for audience, it's just like Ankit mentioned, we need to be as one industry, stand and support, and not actually make
absolutely
contradictory acquisitions of clients. Paras, coming to you, what are the potential trends expected in flex industry post lockdown? A quick view.
Like everyone covered previous question, that it's time to be together and represent with one phase that this is. The narrative should be, a temporary relief rather than capitalizing the situation. The cash flow should be intact. Only change is going to be the enhancement of the horizon. I think after this lockdown, the whole world is going to be one startup. And when you start up, you need a lot of support from everyone. In Flex, we are seeing some new trends. You'll see new set of providers. Landlord entering the game big time. that was, they themselves becoming, operator, or the only consolidation phenomena which I see tying up with the providers on the panel and overall to help him and, kind of do a JV. Second set of providers, a new trend is going to be hotels. We've already been approached as a platform by a couple of large chains to convert certain portion of hotel into a workspace, because they feel that mobility, globalization, international travel, hospitality, that's going to be affected. So the interim would be to best utilize the asset.
Got it. So coming to the last question, and I'll come to Sumit first, is a lot of clients are suggesting that they will be working in a roster format and might end up working on all 7 days. In such scenario, entire costing per seat needs to be reworked. Hence, what are the thoughts around this?
So Karan, every one of us, live for providing solutions to the customer. So we will figure out a solution around that, and we will figure out a great solution for them.
Got it. Akshita, any point on that?
Yeah, so Karan, the rentals of the properties are fixed. So there's only a fraction of cost which becomes extra for extra hours or days. So that should not be an issue. I mean, a client would be willing to pay the little extra for the usage from the outside of the office hours that they work. And the costing is so less of those extra hours that I think that should not be a very big issue with the client or with anybody.
Ankit, yes.
Yeah, some buildings have a problem to get operational on Saturdays and Sundays. They will have a huge challenge to operate their chillers, because you cannot work in India without that air conditioning, because 70% of the time it's summer. So a lot of cost impact will happen, what I think. So the clients have to understand it's a transparent model if we share to them, and the landlords have to also understand the same thing. So because of the employee health and safety issues, we have to have a maintenance of all the buildings and the workspaces. I think so there is a lot of drastic cost impact will happen on Saturday and Sunday if the clients are asking for that, because we cannot compromise on quality. Quality is the essence of all this workspace. Second point, last point I want to make, Karan. Yesterday, Shinzo Abe, the Prime Minister of Japan, has announced that they are shifting their base of all the major manufacturing companies from China, and 50% of that business will be going to Southeast Asia, where India is one of the most preferred partner of Japan. So this is just the starting point. Trust me, it will be a V-shaped recovery. I'll again say this, and the only time we have to be in tandem, in togetherness, is this time. If we all have that strength to surpass all this time, we will come extremely stronger.
Great. So with that, I'd like to end the session. Once again, I want to thank each and every panelist. It's no mean feat to come on in such a quick succession and take questions. And in my view, most of them were tough ones. But it was heartening to see that each of you were very open, transparent, and willing to give a sincere feedback. And for the sake of audience, what we are going to do is we will be sharing this live recording on the social media. So if you want, you can refer to this session later. Great. With that, thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
and,
Karan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karan. Thank you, Paras.
Thank you, Qdes.
Thanks, everyone, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone.
See you. Bye-bye.
Great session.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.